Harvey Elliott, man. Harvey Elliott, bro. I feel sorry for you. I genuinely feel sorry for you. This whole situation is peak right now. From what I from what I gather, he now can't hit the minimum requirement he would have needed in order to secure that permanent move, to Aston Villa. I believe he needed to play 10 Premier League matches. I think he's currently on five, and I'm pretty sure they have got less than 5 games left of the season. So technically speaking, he probably could actually play the remainder of the season. And not be, well, Aston Villa won't be in any kind of danger, of triggering that kind of clause. And yeah, I think what we're seeing at the moment is a lot of the blame game, from both sets of fans. Um, Liverpool fans, of course, especially with everything that's kind of gone wrong this season. You've looked at a player like Harvey Elliott, especially with Florian Wirtz coming in, not really hitting the ground running, potentially needing a player or just having the option to have a player like a Harvey Elliott, someone who can play in that position. And that option obviously hasn't really been there or hasn't been there at all this season. So to kind of see that Harvey Elliott is sitting on the bench, do you get what I mean, at Aston Villa, obviously it's going to be tough to take, for Liverpool fans, because of course they're going to look at it from that perspective of we could have blatantly have used a player like that, someone who obviously knows the position, knows the club, knows what we need in these kind of certain games where you just need that type of player, but still someone with a little bit of that technique and that kind of je ne sais quoi, so to speak. I hope that's not a dirty word. Um, but yeah, I think, from a Liverpool perspective, I can totally understand as to why they would look at it from that perspective. Aston Villa, obviously, the thing is, I understand from both sides. So from Aston Villa's perspective, they're looking at it, and apparently it was the old sporting director who left a couple of weeks after Harvey Elliott was obviously signed on loan. Unai Emery didn't want him, and obviously, if Unai Emery didn't want him and has no real desire to actually play him, I can't blame him. So Unai Emery, for me, he's out of the picture. You can't blame him at all, because the reality is I don't need him. I don't want him. And let me take that back. Let me not say I don't need him. He doesn't want him. And obviously, Unai Emery also understands if I do play him and he does hit that mark, this might hamper what the players that we actually want to sign, the players that he actually wants to sign. So he's got to think of a lot of things. And of course, these are the whole background kind of things that kind of happen in football that we're not really privy to, and we don't really understand from that kind of angle. And that's totally fine, because obviously we're football fans at the end of the day. We're not here to really know all the ins and outs and all the intricacies that kind of go on in the game. But this is big for someone like Harvey Elliott, because of course everyone's looking at Aston Villa saying, "Hey, it's your fault. This is the reason." Blah blah blah. And to some degree, I do agree. Ultimately, as much as he was signed by the old sporting director, this should have been something that was obviously factored in. I believe Liverpool have even factored in the price. I think it's like 30 million or 25 million, for Harvey Elliott into their own budget. Going to be really interesting to find out when he's coming back to Liverpool, because obviously he's not going to hit the trigger mark unless Aston Villa and Liverpool can come to some form of an agreement in the summer, whereby maybe Aston Villa still sign him, but at a much lower price, than the price that's obviously being touted. We know that Liverpool are looking at Jan Diomande at RB Leipzig. RB Leipzig did have previous interest in Harvey Elliott. So is that going to be something that they potentially look at and think, you know what, maybe we go back in for him, and maybe, they can sweeten the deal by throwing in a Harvey Elliott, and then, I don't know, 40, 50, however much Diomande is going to cost, maybe knock off 15 to 20 million, for a Harvey Elliott kind of thing. Obviously, he's had a year where he's just not played, and it's not been because he's been injured. And that's always a tricky one, because I'm always of the ilk of, like, obviously you need to play, you need to go out on loan and etc. And this, by the way, people, is one of the reasons why I said I didn't trust Liverpool to do loans. When everyone was talking about, Rio and this, and yeah, Rio should just go on loan. This is why Liverpool are rubbish when it comes to loans. They are like one of the worst teams I can think of when it comes to just loaning out a player and having everything just done properly as you would like to see it when you loan out a player. It just this doesn't surprise me when it comes to Liverpool, right? Hence why I was like, if you had just sold him, you know what I'm saying? Like, you wouldn't even be in this mess. Now you've got a player that has to come back to your football club. You have to then try and potentially find suitors for this guy. How many people are going to be after him? We don't really know. It's too much up in the air. If you had sold him at when his price was at his highest, then you would have been absolutely fine. Unfortunately, you didn't do that. So Yeah, in terms of the clubs wise, like I said, I can see it from both sides. Liverpool, of course, it once the player's gone out on loan anyway, regardless of what I think of loans, once he's gone out on loan, he's not our problem anymore. In terms of they've also got the obligation to buy once he hits obviously 10 appearances. So again, they were figured, yeah, he probably hit this, before October, kind of thing, or November, at the latest kind of thing. But of course, Unai Emery, again, which by the way, he has absolutely no God-given right to actually go and play him if he doesn't really want this player, and he knows that this is going to hamper my future business. And obviously, Villa looking to get back into the Champions League and things like that. Yeah, this makes sense. I'll be honest with you. This makes total sense. I get it from a Villa perspective. I know the fans have been talking about they've had their injuries and they could have potentially have used a player, like Harvey Elliott. I get all of that. But again, remember, you're not fighting, in this battle with, the Man Cities, the Liverpools, the Arsenals, the Manchester Uniteds, where we can spend kind of money a bit willy-nilly. You can't really do that. So he knows that and he understands that, Unai Emery. So he's got to obviously be able to play the field, in that kind of regard. So yeah, I can understand from his perspective, but again, also he didn't want the player. There really isn't much else that can kind of be done. He didn't want the player. This isn't like even when he was signed. Again, he doesn't want the player. He probably didn't want to even give him the number 9 shirt. Do you get what I mean? So again, all of these kind of like little things, I just think that, of course, they're going to play a part. Excuse me, to Harvey Elliott and his overall development. But again, Liverpool should have just sold him to RB Leipzig when you had the kind of opportunity. Would he have played more potentially? So obviously everything's in hindsight now. We would never really and truly know. But I mean, he's sitting there with Villa. I mean, yeah, I mean, for him, like I said, I just think he's just got to look at it and just think, listen, sometimes these kind of moves they happen, these kind of things they happen in football. Like it wasn't going to be all smooth sailing for you just because you was at Liverpool. Nah, man. Do you get what I'm saying? You got to work. Obviously, Liverpool fans, we overrate players quite a bit. So it's one of those, in it, like in terms of players in a general sense. In terms of how we view them to how other people view him. One thing I will say is, if Elliot was as good as people made him out to be, Unai Emery would have just played him and potentially have just shelved whatever the other player, unless this other player is going to be like some world-class talent, for example. Obviously, I don't know who it is, but as an example, I feel like he just would have played him. So when I saw that, I was like, yes, there's obviously a little bit of understanding the financial constraints that you're under, but then also you don't rate him that highly anyway. Do you get what I'm saying? And as much as he's training well and stuff like that, and yeah, you don't think he's that good, or you don't think he's good enough, or he was ever going to be good enough in order for you to think, yeah, you know what, I'll sign him instead of the other guy that I'm potentially thinking about. Funny if they don't sign anybody, by the way, but obviously we'll kind of just wait and see on that one. But yeah, I just think that with Harvey Elliott, yeah, it's come back to Liverpool. And yeah, Liverpool just sell. Like I said, just sell, just get rid. Don't need him. Again, I was happy when I thought he was going to go, not necessarily because I think he's a poor player or anything like that. Just for his own development. That's all I really care about. Like I kind of want to see players play now. Do you get what I mean? Like I'm tired of all of this hoarding players and thinking about, yeah, it's best to keep a player even though he's not going to play and he's going to still be annoyed, like a Curtis Jones, that they're still sitting there on the bench and you think it's okay because they're at Liverpool and we need squad depth. Well, listen, not everybody wants to just be squad depth, especially players at the ages of a Harvey Elliott and a Curtis Jones and a Rio and all of these kind of guys. They want to play. They want to play football. They want to showcase their talents. The World Cup is coming up, and Curtis Jones, Harvey Elliott, especially Harvey Elliott anyway, but Curtis Jones, I doubt he's going to go. Like, I'll be very surprised if he's on that plane, to America, to the World Cup kind of thing. And he's probably thinking, "Phew, as much as I'm young-ish, ultimately there are also other young players in this position. This was probably my chance to kind of get in." Harvey Elliott, they both had really good under-21 tournaments prior to the season. Do you get what I'm saying? So the career can go by very, very quickly. You could be a forgotten man very, very fast. And then once that happens, yeah, it is peak for you. It is peak for you. So now we're looking at you thinking, oh, right, he's playing for Oviedo and that in Spain. Do you get what I'm saying? He's playing for Vintencia, like in Syria. Like, bro, your career could just fly past you. And now it's just peak. So, yeah, I just think Harvey Elliott, for him, for his sake, you just come back to Liverpool, asked to be sold, drop down a level. And when I say a level, I don't even mean like, oh, go to the championship. I just mean maybe not a Villa level. Maybe you go to, I don't know, like a promoted team's level and be the star man in that team. Showcase your talent, showcase your skills. Then you could get moved on for bigger money to a better team where you've now also had a season where you've been the main man in the Premier League, which has never happened. I don't know. I just feel like right now a lot of players are also making the wrong moves. He obviously made a bad move last season. I'm not going to put all the blame on him. That is Liverpool's fault, plus also Aston Villa's fault. Liverpool shouldn't have put in the obligation, because once they put in that obligation, Villa looked at him for, boy, unless we're signing Ronaldinho, then the reality is we don't really want this guy. But cool, it is what it is. Obviously, it was under the old sporting director. Did he speak to Unai Emery? Probably not, clearly, because Emery didn't want the player. Again, that's not necessarily Liverpool's problem, but putting that obligation in has obviously hampered the deal, because if there was no obligation, Harvey Elliott definitely would have played a lot more games. But unfortunately, with that obligation in, Liverpool, you try to put Villa in a position. They've now put you in the position, because the reality is we can just send him back. Do you know what I mean? It's really no skin off our back. We'll send him back. You can have him. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt, and you're kind of good to go. So yeah, I think that's it for him. And like I said, it is deep. Like, you know what I mean? It is generally peak, for Harvey Elliott. Like, I'm not sitting here happy that he's just sat there on the bench and I mean, man's not playing football for like a whole season, and that is a bit deep. But these are the things, man. These are the things, and these are the decisions that ultimately that have been kind of made, man. So yeah, yeah. Let me know your thoughts, man. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section in regards to Harvey Elliott, this whole Aston Villa Liverpool beef that's clearly going on behind the scenes. What would you, as a Liverpool fan, what would you like to do with Harvey Elliott come the end of the season? Do you want him to come back into the Liverpool team as a squad player? Do you want us to just sell him straight away, loan him again? I'm going to get onto anybody who uses the word loan for certain players. I promise you, I'm going to get onto a lot of people. But guys, let me know your thoughts, comment section, and I'll catch you very, very soon. Peace.